Alright, starting the day out with a nice little 85-ish degree. So, today, working on the Jeep. So, it's finally time to get the floorboards out. And I kind of already got ahead of myself. This stuff's already got the seat out. Already kind of got that side test fitted and some of the stuff trimmed out. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and do this. So, I'll go ahead and show you the footage I got of that guy. And then we'll come back to this guy. Alright, well, curiosity finally got the best of me. I just needed to know how bad it was, and I think I got my answer. So I'm going to go ahead, clean this all up, and seeing how much of that frame rail I can salvage, and how much I'm going to have to literally rebuild, probably from scratch. And before I add the frame stiffening section on there, so that's kind of one thing that's probably going to save me is that frame stiffening section. That's really going to strengthen that up. So I guess let's start chopping it up and start cleaning it up. Alright, so I got the front seat mount out, or the brace, and we can really see where the rust just kind of like immediately stops. So this is probably going to be the line where we're going to be working on. Up here we have just like, I'm going to have to weld these up and patch these up a little bit. Just because those are self-inflicted wounds on my part. But we're really going to have to uncover that seam and weld up to it and butt up to it with the new floor pan. But this frame rail is really what's going to kill me, is that it's not just the bottom, so it's rotted out all the way to the inner side of the frame rail. So I'm going to have to either refabricate the whole lower or find a good frame section where I can just cut it, stitch weld it all the way around, stitch weld it to the body, and then have the frame stiffener that is really going to conjoin all the pieces together afterwards. And honestly, I think that's going to be the best bet here. So I'm probably going to have to come in through here, trim down here, cut across. Hopefully this little section of frame is good. And we'll just essentially cut from as far forward as we can and from the front side as far back as we can, and just cut out what we need to. And then once we do that, we can hopefully graft in a new little piece of frame. The other side was looking very promising to being still good, so hopefully the other side's not as bad as this. So I'm going to go ahead, hop on the internet, and see if I can find myself some kind of donor or, I don't know, replacement section where I can get all of this, because this is just bad. But it's crazy just how it's like localized. The rust is just localized in one little spot. It doesn't really look like it's spread further than just this spot, because the rest of the Jeep looks fine. The whole backside is like perfectly fine, other than the area where those moldings were. But it just looks like these Jeeps just had like really bad issues just holding in water in certain areas. So yeah. Alright, well, let's get on that internet and see if we can find ourselves a section. Cool. Patch panel fits. Now just to glue it in and send it home. But for real, I think the patch panel is really gonna cover up about, I would say, 95% of all the rust that we're dealing with. So we got a small little hole here. I'll probably have to cut out like a little square or something to make a little patch for that. It's not gonna be pretty, I'm gonna be honest. This is just gonna be a trail rig, but I just need it to be somewhat functional, so I can still cut this guy a little bit shorter. I'm gonna try and use the bare minimum that I need. I don't want to do a full fucking restoration on this thing. On this, I honestly could just, clean this metal up. It's still pretty sound. This is just surface rust, so I can just clean that up, primer it, and call it a day. So over here though, that frame rail is definitely gonna have to get cut out. So I'm gonna go ahead and find me a frame rail before I get a little bit too far into this, and possibly go and hit up our favorite place, Harbor Freight, pick up a little body saw. That way I can try and cut those edges a little bit nicer when I'm trimming it. And I'm just gonna probably just gonna do a butt up weld, or I guess like a lap joint or whatever, where you know, I'm gonna leave a small little seam for this to lay over on, and then just stitch weld it all the way across. Is it gonna be perfect? No. Is it gonna last probably the rest of the life of this vehicle? Yes. So, then after that, seam seal it and call it a day. This thing is, again, it's not gonna be perfect. It's not a show car. It's not a resto. It's just, let's fix it, make it drivable, and move on with our lives type of thing. So, yeah, let's go find ourselves a frame rail to stitch in there. Okay, so we are at the passenger side, and yes, I know the carpet is gross. That's why I didn't even bother cleaning it or getting it cleaned. This carpet is just gonna get cut out and it's gonna get thrown straight into the trash. So, big thing with this thing is I can't get the seat out because that guy, the threads are stripped, and then that guy, the actual bolt is just rusted, just stripped. So I'm gonna have to cut the bolt out from the bottom, cut the threads out like I did on the other side, and then this side I'm probably just gonna have to get creative and probably cut the head off of it on this side. Hopefully I don't catch the Jeep on fire or destroy it with sparks, but it should be fine. I'm gonna try and maybe cut out the carpet now, try and get some of that grossness out, and really start seeing what I'm working with here. Cool. So after getting myself a little airsoft from Harbor Freight and a whole host of PPE and stuff like that, a little welding blanket to make sure I don't burn that rear seat, I already kind of tested this out. Even though my air compressor is severely undersized, this thing just like ate through it like butter, like pretty much got me all the way like to here super fast. So I'm definitely going to be using this a lot on this project. When even bought myself 3 of these little spot weld removal tools, so I did mark out kind of where the frame roughly is. So I'm gonna cut around the frame and then later on come back and hit up those little spot welds. That way I don't accidentally kill the frame. So it'll make it easier once I get those sides out roughly where the frame is, and I can hopefully find the spot welds a little bit easier that way too. But this, lifesaver. So if I were to use the angle grinder with a ton of cutoff wheels and grinding wheels and stuff like that, it would just be a mess. I was already choking on the dust on this, so I did get some masks, a face shield, all that stuff. So, but this is just gonna make it so much cleaner, so much safer, and so much quicker versus using the grinder. So let's go ahead, cut this floor out, inspect this frame rail. I think it's going to be perfect, and see how far we get. Cool. After a whole lot of drilling, a whole lot of banging with a hammer, and a whole lot of chiseling, we got the majority of the floorboard out. I think I'm starting to find kind of like my end where I think I'm going to cut that little square out and then cut that little piece out and just essentially just overlay it over that. Over here, pretty solid. Just got to kill all that like gnarly chewed up edge and then just run a clean edge down the side. So I got to remove all of that seam sealer. But overall, not horrible. You can kind of see how I was taking it out in chunks. So I was just taking out a little piece at a time. Just rolling it as I went. There's another piece over there. And then I would just cut it and then just roll it and just cut it and just keep banging it out. So make sure I save my little bit there before it gets tossed. So from here on, it's now time for the finishing edges. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean all this up and test fit the floorboard, trim the fit now, and then go ahead and start marking out my edges. I'm gonna leave a little bit of a gap and just essentially just overlap weld it. I don't really care. Again, this is a project Jeep, so it's not that big of a deal. So all those like super crazy body work guys, don't flame me on the comments. This is a trail rig. It's just, let's just go out, have fun, beat the shit out of it. The motor's probably gonna blow up and I'm gonna sell it for 500 bucks. So let's get after it. If you're curious just how much rust came off this Jeep, that is nuts. The same amount came off on the other side. So, and then I also have a bunch in the vacuum cleaner when I vacuumed out the frame rail. So, yeah. Well, at least we're fixing her up. So, let me clean this up and I'll show you the next step of the process. Cool. So I wouldn't call that my best work, but you kind of get the point where we're going now. So that is the gap that we got to fill in. Got a small one right there as well. And then we just got to weld up the inner seam or the outer seam and we're done. So I'll go ahead, wrap this side up and go ahead and move on to the next side. Alright, it's a beautiful new day, and thanks to our homies over at Hills Auto and Jeep over in Apple Valley, California, huge shout out to them. They were able to cut me out a new frame rail for the Jeep. So I've already kind of started drilling out some spot welds. Right now I'm hit it up with the spot weld tool. But underneath the Jeep, it kind of looks like this. So the plan is to probably trim right around here above this oval hole and seeing if I can get to all these spot welds. I'm essentially just gonna pop it off and pop the new one on, measure a good spot where I could do a nice clean butt weld and weld this new piece on. Okay, so jump to getting our frame rail prepped. Here we can see that it's already 100 times better than our original frame rail. So what I want to do is, this is the section that I need right here on the Jeep. This is our, I guess, secondary piece that's on aft of the driver's seat. This piece is actually pretty damn in good shape. So what I want to do is I cleaned up the frame rail, got a little bit more of that undercoating off, and I found 6, potentially 7 spot welds on the inside of the frame rail. I already looked up underneath there. It's going to be a little bit of a pain, but I should be able to get to these guys. And then on the top, we got 4. And then on the outside, we got about another 6. So if I'm able to peel these guys off, then I should be able to extract this good piece of frame rail perfectly. And then all I got to do is just reline it up here, and then now I have my threads for my transmission mount and the stud. And then over here all I got to do is just do a little bit of cleanup work and essentially just graft it in, so it'll almost be like it never happened. So I'm gonna go ahead, clean off some more of these spot welds and get it going. Cool, and this will essentially get us to our final product, right? So this is our frame rail that we need to replace. This is essentially now mimicking our frame rail inside the Jeep, and all we gotta do is just overlap it in the exact same joint, slap that up. I will trim the frame as close as I can to here, and then that'll give me that little extra inch. I'll either overlap as well or do something with it. Maybe I'll like try and cut both of them at the same time. That way I have a perfectly straight line and it'll make a perfect little butt weld. And then after that, we'll toss on our frame stiffener kit, which will overlap that weld and fully strengthen that up. This will be just as strong, if not stronger, than factory, because I am planning on stitch welding it all the way around, just to give it a little bit extra, then maybe a little on the inside. But once we do all that, we will literally be back to factory standards. Alright, well, that I'm gonna wrap this video up just because it's getting kind of long. So on the next video, I'm gonna have the floorboard already cut out and also that frame rail cut out and that section just ripped out of it. So yeah, if you like the video, share it with somebody, or at least like it. I know I kind of ramble on, but hopefully at least showed you like what all is involved in this. Definitely stock up on your spot weld cutters. I have gone through at least 2 of them so far. I got 2 more. They're cheap. They're like $3 at Harbor Freight. So cutoff wheels and grinder bit assortments. So yeah, I think I'm gonna call it a day. So I'll catch y'all later. Deuces.